Hey,
Sup?
do I sound all right? Can you hear the fan? Is it too loud?
No, I mean, well, occasionally it'll like muffle stuff, but no, it's pretty good. It's fine. It's good.
Okay. So you've been playing games
Hey.
because you actually have time now in your home and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me
Okay.
about them.
Tell me about all the games. Um, well, when I first came home, I played Fable 2. Um, which, if you go on the Hayash website, you saw I made that post about it, and I really liked Fable 2. Um, I'm not like I like games. I'm not super good at them, so I think the golden trail and the simplistic fighting actually helped me, and I was able to feel like a badass, like doing shock level 5 and not have to have all that much skill. Anthony watched me a lot of the time, and when you get, is it like, what is the one that lets you target specific parts of the body?
Oh, I don't know. It's something for your gun.
Yeah, and I just
It's
did
a
headshots everywhere, headshots
agility upgrade.
and
Yeah.
shock 5 everywhere, and I felt like the most powerful woman in the world. And the customizability was really cool too, like being able to choose your own outfit. And whenever there was a clothing sale anywhere, I was like, "Ooh, what new clothing do they have in store for me today?" Um, and I thought the choice system, a lot of the responses to the hot page, I thought were interesting because people were saying, that they didn't have any incentive to save. Well, spoilers, haha. They didn't have any incentive to save the people at the spire at the end. Um, and that, what other things did they say? They felt like it was kind of out of nowhere and it hadn't been built up to at all,
Yeah, that's true.
which
You you,
I sympathize with, yeah.
you see the spire, but you don't see it from the perspective of people suffering. You see it from like, well, there are a couple of prisoners, and I guess I can feed them or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's really all you get.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, there is a, I mean, it's incidental and it's not as good as if it had been built up. But there was a sense of like, the thousands of people that you save mean less than nothing to you. Like they cannot mean anything, and yet the fact that there are thousands of them, and that you don't care about them at all, kind of makes it a more interesting decision when your other option is like four people that you care the world about.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you don't care about your family, but you care about the dog a lot.
Oh yeah, you
So
do
I mean
really care about
that
the
was
dog.
because when I finished the game my first time, I was Davis was with me, and when they gave me that choice, I literally just sat there. I do this thing when I have really good moral choices in games, and I want to think about them, and I look ridiculous when I do it. But I do like the pose of Rodin's The Thinker. I just sit there with my fucking head on my fucking fist and just stare at the ground, just thinking really hard about like what I want to do.
I did
And for
something
about five,
similar.
yeah.
I was just cross-legged and I looked at like sad at the ground.
Yeah. I don't know why we default to just looking at the
I
ground.
don't
Why
know.
that's our morality core being accessed by brains. But yeah, but it was for me it was an interesting decision in terms of like I'll be this hero and everybody will love me, but every character that I cared about will leave me in some way, and these guys I'm saving don't mean anything. But at the same time, I know in my heart it's the right thing to do. So then after I beat the game, I went back and there was like this huge fucking statue of me in the middle of Bowerstone or something like that. I can't remember where, and I just like looked at that and went back to my home and no one was there. And I saw a chest and realized that my dog hadn't pointed it out to me because he was dead. And I just fucking went home and just turned off the game and never turned it on again. And basically said that as far as I'm concerned, that guy just fucking threw himself into a river. Like
Yeah.
after, I wish there had been a suicide option. And what pisses me off more is that Fable 3, it's like, in Fable 3, you're playing as the son of your character from Fable 2. It's like, no, my entire family's dead. He would not have had another kid unless somebody just came in and like raped him and took a sperm sample and artificially inseminated themselves. That's the only excuse I'm able to have
Yeah.
for Fable 3 making sense
Which,
for my
considering some
character.
of the people that live in the Fable world, wouldn't be that far from, Oh, I should tell about like,
Talk
oh
about
my
Andy.
god. So my inclination whenever I went into a new area was to dance. That was my inclination.
That sounds like a
It sounds like
either,
Footloose.
it sounds like either a Lifetime original movie or like a Cinemax Midnight movie. She's on the run, and her only way to make money was to dance.
Yeah. But I just like to dance. It was like an easy way to like if people were around, I was like, "Hey guys, you want to see me dance?" And we're like, "Ooh, yes, I'd like to see that." And then
I remember initially he would screw up and like accidentally hit the spell button and send lightning everywhere, and people would be like, "Oh my god!" You're like, "No, guys, watch, dance," and they would
yeah,
just
and
go
then
to
they'd be like,
dancing.
"Oh, yeah."
So
So Daniel. Fable 2
They're just easily
villagers were
impressed.
very
Yeah.
yeah, they were very easily won over. But I would just do that. So I'd like go into Bowerstone Market, there'd be a crowd of people, I'd be like, "Hey guys, watch me dance." Or like heroic pose or whatever. And I think it was Oakfield where I had my manure manor. Um, and I just that's my default. I go into a town, I dance, I go along with my day. And so it got to the point where like everyone in Bowerstone was in love with me. Like literally, you would go in and there would be red hearts above everyone. Like I would go to the blacksmith shop and I would just work for a little bit to make some money. I would stop. It'd be like 3 in the morning. Their time, not my time. And there would be a crowd of people just watching me blacksmith. It's like, what are you guys doing? Don't you have jobs and families and shit? And then I went to Oakfield, and there was a guy. It was the first time I'd ever seen anyone with like a gift option above their head, and I was like, "Ooh, what's this?" And Anthony kept telling me to not bother with it because it's gonna be like 10 gold or something like that. But I just really wanted to do it for some reason. And so the guy that I was trying to get stuff from, I think he liked like flirt or one of those like romantic gestures, but he was gay. And I was like, "Fuck, it's gonna take forever." And so I kept trying to like dance and do other things to get it from him because it was early in the game, so I didn't know a lot of expressions. But Andy the drunkard was just standing on the sidelines and watching me do all of this, and then my like it wasn't aimed at him obviously, but then he just fell in love with me watching me trying to get this gift from this guy. And literally anytime I went to Oakfield, Andy was right there. Like I went to the saloon, he was there. I went to my house, he was in my house. Like he was stalking me literally. Like anywhere I went, like if I went to go visit my cuz I got married and I had 2 kids like later in the game. If I went to go visit my husband, I would turn around and literally Andy would be standing behind me. And I was like, "What the fuck? How did you get in here?" And there was no
And he would
option.
always be asking you like, "Hey, you should give me a ring so we can get married." Like while you're playing with your kids and your
Yeah,
husband,
and my
like inside
husband
your
in my
house.
house. He's like, if we got
I'm
a
in your
ring,
house.
I'm in your house. If we got a ring, we would be married. And I was like, no, I don't want it. No. And then sometimes he'd be like, I'd really like a gift. I'd be like, I really like you to shut the fuck up and leave me alone. And then
And I kept being like, "Kill him. You can kill him. Just take him out of the woods and kill him. If nobody sees it, you're fine.
I was
Just
like,
kill
no,
him."
I don't want to kill anybody. Innocent. And so eventually I had him follow me outside where no one was around, and I just screamed at him for like an hour until he didn't like me anymore. I had to like scream and play dead and do some other things. And then I think there was another guy that kind of came in my house a few times. But and then it got to the point, I guess because I was so famous, but like I went to Bloodstone and everyone was already in love with me. And I was like, I
Yeah.
didn't do anything. And Anthony was like, "This is weird. Is this what it's like to be a girl? Like you just go
Because it
around
was
and
literally when yeah, I mean, when I played through as a male, like I never had anything like that. Like I had one or two people maybe in each town who were in love with me, and it was usually because they had been directly witnessing like my dancing or my farting or whatever it was. But like I was flabbergasted at how quickly like people fell in love with you, and it was really like I don't know if it was intentional or a glitch, or maybe I just one of our experiences was not typical or anything like that. But if there was some aspect of the design that was intentionally like, you know what, women are going to have an easier time attracting people, then that is cool, and that
hmm
is like an interesting way of sort of experiencing just in a very small, simplistic, almost cartoony way. Like this is kind of what it would be like to be a female adventurer, or to what it's like to be a girl gamer.
Yeah, and I mean, they would start saying like really sleazy stuff. I mean, the thing is that like I went
What's
into,
funny is they said the same stuff to you as they did to me, but I'm a guy, so I was like, well, thank you very
and then
much.
you heard them say it to me, and you're like, oh, that's ooh.
That's weird.
And then you were
That's a
like,
little
wait,
weird.
they said because it was like, why don't we go somewhere private and you can show me how you swing that sword? And Anthony was like, ugh, but he's like, wait, a girl said that to me when I played through Fable. So it's just funny
Yeah,
because
but I didn't mind. I mean, that's just gender. That's just the truth
it's just
of gender
yeah, that's why
stuff.
it's funny. It's just like Anthony watching me play Fable like illuminated him more to what it is to be a girl in real life than probably anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's the double standard that makes sense. It's like when you hear about a female teacher like having sex with students, like, well, fucking good for them. Like, great, awesome, good for that kid. He's lucky. But
Yeah.
then you hear about the inverse, and it's like, oh, that's disgusting. Like, it transferred over to my reactions to Fable too.
hmm And of course, at the end, it was funny because I had like I've been dicking around a lot in Fable 2. It was just fun to do quests and like to Anthony's chagrin, I always did slave rescues because I just wanted to free some slaves
All the
all the
time.
time.
Every time I came in, I'd be like, "You can go along with it," because I was wanting you. I was eager to see you because I didn't know how long you were going to spend playing the game because you're spending a lot of time digging around because it's a very good game for that kind of thing. And I was like eager for you to get to the end and have everybody die and see how you reacted and stuff like that. So I was
So,
like, once you can continue the game, it'd be really fun if you continue the game. Like, no, I'm gonna slave rescue. Fucking goddamn it!
but when I finally did continue the game, I got a little bit tired of doing all the quests. Because like I felt obligated to do like every single one because I was like, ooh, they're fun. And then it got to
That's
the
for
point
some
where I got
carry
like
time.
5 more, and I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's pretty easy to stop caring after a bit. But that's the way it is with all open world games. I don't know if that's like
Oh yeah, I don't think it's like a fault of Fable, but
yeah.
so I kept playing or whatever, and I've never thought that a game could make me hate Stephen Fry, but it made me hate Stephen Fry a little bit. I was really upset. Like legitimately, like he shot his like the guy making his statue, and that was sad because like he's just being a dick in general. And then the fucking thing where he makes you go and like get all old, and like the girl's so scared and she doesn't know what's going on, and like I just kept it because I was being like turbo good in my run. Like actually, in the Spire when you can start to disobey the what is his name, the commandant or something,
Yeah, the
the
commandant.
commandant. It was kind of funny because Anthony was watching me do that part. And the first thing he makes you do is like come here, and I immediately disobeyed. And he's
Yeah,
like,
because it's like there's supposed to be a threshold at a period of time where you start disobeying him. Like he asks you to do increasingly more weird things. Like first he's like come over here and he's like bow to me or whatever. And it's like yeah sure no problem. Then he starts hitting you and says you have to thank me every time I hit you. And that's usually the part where everybody starts rebelling because it's kind of the game is very much predicated on being awesome and feeling like the coolest or whatever. But Ashley wouldn't even fucking go for the come over here part. Like that was crossing the line for her. So
nobody
she
tells me
stayed
what to do.
and lost like 10,000 experience just because he was like, come over here. It's like you don't know what he's gonna say. He could like give you cake or something and you don't fucking know. But she was like, nope, and then just died right there.
I took an educated guess that there would be no cake. Um, so anyway, so I did that, and then okay, Reaver. So I was being turbo good in my playthrough. So like everything that happened in the Spire, anytime that I was supposed to disobey, I disobeyed. I fed everyone and etc. etc. I didn't kill any innocent people. The only person I was ever mean to was Andy, because fuck him. But
And you were patient with him for the
I was
longest
yeah,
time.
Anthony like from day one. He was
There
like
was
just kill
literally
him.
about 4 hours of you just taking his bullshit.
And you're
And
like just kill him, just kill him, just kill him, just kill him. I was like no, I don't want to do it. And then I did. Um, but then the whole Reaver thing, I was like, no, oh, because I was so proud of my character's appearance. I was like, yeah, I got a badass haircut. I look like a fucking baller in my outfit. I'm just the coolest girl in town. And it's like, okay, you're gonna be all old. I was like, ah. But she was so scared and she wasn't supposed to be there. And I was like, fuck it, whatever. And Anthony was even saying it was funny because our friend Christina is now playing it because I told her I played it and she had like given up on it because when you're a girl and you boost your physique, you look fucking weird apparently. I never did it because Ashley Davis warned me not to. But you look just weird and bulky and like awkward, and so that happened to her, so she just stopped playing. Which is funny because Ashley Davis did the same thing. But so
you can still undo that. I don't know why she stopped playing. You can go
I don't
back
know.
and reset your skill points and get
I
skinny.
don't know, but so I don't think she knew that's what did it though. I think she just thought that like the more you use your sword, maybe that you bulked up. I don't think she realized that it was the physique that did it.
Right.
But where was I going?
She has a malfunctioning moral compass.
Yeah. So it was that part, and Anthony was saying that like even when he was playing like his turbo evil run through, he couldn't give the dark seal to the girl because she started crying and like asking what was going on, and like he's like fuck it. And then Christina
It's just too
fucking
sad.
she was playing a good run through, but she gave the dark seal to the girl, and I was like, why did you give it to her? And she was like, I don't want to be old, fuck that, and just like let her take it and get all old. And I was like, Jesus Christ, Christina. But first he did that, and I was like, okay, admittedly I look pretty badass as a old person, but I also didn't know how my family was going to react at the time, so I was kind of bummed about that. I thought that maybe they would be really freaked out about it, but they were like, I think they got like a couple of fear points, but it wasn't anything. They were just like, we missed you. Um, I was gone for 5 years though, so maybe they kind of are used to it.
Like whatever. You're a little bit older,
Whatever.
but at least you came back in a week. Yay.
Yay. But then when I came back and Reaver killed Barnum, I was so mad at him. I was like, Stephen Fry, you fuckhead. I was so
It's good,
upset.
right?
No, it was great. It was great. Cause you think like, oh, these people are involved with like these little quests. Like nothing can really happen to them, cause they're sort of like, ingrained in the story. They have their own little lives. He's like fixing the town and everything. But no, he just fucking dies. It's terrible. I was so upset. But then of
Yeah.
course it only got 10 times worse when Lucian confronted me, because he was like, I was talking to Anthony about something, I remember, and he like pointed at the screen like paying attention, and then as he did that, I was like, by the way, we killed your family. I was like, ah! Because
Fuck.
I had two kids, and they were adorable. Every single time I came home, they're like, "Mommy, I want to go on adventures with you. You're the best mommy ever." And like, I given them like a good allowance. Like, we have everything we need, and you're the best mommy ever. I was like,
I have a crush on
"Yay!"
every boy.
I have a crush on every boy, and I was just so happy with my family. And like, the guy that I'd married was Brian the tattooist, who was in like the thug village, but he was like the nicest villager that I'd met. Like, he never said anything sleazy. everyone had always told me like, "You're not as attractive as I'd like you to be. Maybe you should change your appearance." And everyone was just like, "I love."
Even Andy.
Yeah, even Andy. And he was like, "I love you, honey. This is great. I'm so happy that I'm with you." And I was like, "Ah, Ryan." And then when I found out that they died, I was like, I covered my hand, like my mouth with my hand, and I was just like, I couldn't say anything. And then I saw him like he like the angle changed or whatever. And then my dog, who I named Dusty, which was not a good idea in retrospect, um, jumped up to take the bullet. And I was like, "No!" And then he shot him, and then I literally felt like crying. Like I didn't even know what to do. Like I was just like, I don't want to play this anymore. I don't want. Where's my dog? And then of course, like you go to this like, I think it was appropriate um, to go to that world that like you're a kid. I thought it was like a good contrast actually. This like everything is horrible, and then you go back to like where everything is simple, and you don't want it. You just
I
like
think it would have been better if it was because the idea was that he puts you in this fantasy to keep you from like rebelling or whatever. It would have been even better if it was like your family was there and the dog were there. Like the kid,
yeah.
the sister, I have no connection to. Like it was assuming that you cared about her, but I really didn't.
Mhm.
I think it would have been better if it was like you hanging out with your family and the dog and just being cool dudes.
Yeah. But
But that said, it was pacing wise. I see what you mean.
yeah. And so it was funny because like my friend Marty called me to talk to me about something. And I was just like, I can't talk right. I'm so upset. And he like didn't know what was going on. But like periodically, like throughout our conversation, I would think about my dog in the game and just get like legitimately upset. Like I felt like a serious sense of loss.
Mhm.
And I just like didn't like I didn't know how to handle it. And then of course the option came at the end and I was just like and I just like out of impulse I chose love. But then
Which surprised the hell out of me.
no, I know you were really shocked. But I just fucking I really liked the dog. Like they did such a good job of making him just even like people on the Hey Ash website I remember saying, well, I think like maybe one or two people said like I don't even like dogs, but I just like really love my dog in Fable 2. Um and but even like after I did that like they put you back on the dock and I was like, "Oh my god, I just let like 1,000 people die." And then I saw my dog and I was like, "Oh, it's my dog." And then I went back and they're like, it's like retribution, go back to your family or whatever. And then I went back to my family and they were like, "Honey, we missed you. Oh, mommy." And I was just like, "I can't do this." And I turned off the game. But,
Yeah. I think for me the dog works better than the family does because like if the family's rewards to you had been more substantial, like if they hadn't given you shitty XP potions and stuff, and hadn't sort of drained your resources, like I think you probably would have cared about them even more. Because like for me, what I love about the fact that the family dies is one of the sort of the faults with Fable 2 is that it's kind of two different games. It's like there's one game in which you're this story-driven guy going on this quest and doing missions and stuff like that, and there's another game where you're just running around like fucking buying up property and having fun and not caring about things and like dicking around like you did.
uh-huh.
Um, and it's sort of like for most of the game, those two worlds never really combine in any significant way. And that's kind of a bummer
Until that
until
point.
you get to the end, and then it's like, hey, we were actually paying attention to what you were doing all along, haha, and now they're dead, and you didn't expect that, so now it's much sadder.
Yeah.
Um,
I was really shocked.
yeah, but the dog still hits better because I think he's not only is he with you from the beginning, but like he's super fucking useful, like in
Yeah.
almost every respect. Like he leads you along to some extent. Like even if you don't have the breadcrumb trail, he'll still sort of like be ahead of you when you're going in the right direction, and he'll find treasures, and you never have to worry about him. Same deal with Alex Vance. I'm figuring that out more and more. Like the less bullshit your companions can be in terms of like requiring things of you, the more you will probably like them and the more useful they are.
Speaking of, I started playing Ico, and
Oh yeah.
Yorda,
Yay, transitions with a Z.
and Yorda is the exact opposite of that, and I can't fucking stand it. I wrote a hop about it, which you will see eventually. I don't know when, but oh my god, she's just. Ugh. It's like they took feminism and they pissed on it with Yorda. That's what happened. That's what they did. I mean, I understand like it's an older game, and I understand that it's like it was really significant when it came out, and it's obviously Uday is like a very he has a very artistic mind and he has a very unique vision for games, but I just can't handle it. Like the fact that you like I think also the fact that I juxtaposed it with Fable 2 where it like completely like tells you where you're supposed to go and you also have the best companion ever with Ico, which is completely a puzzle game, and you have the most annoying companion ever. Like the fact that you have to literally drag her by the hand, I was just like, "Oh my god." And
Some that's the thing is that there's a pretty even split, I think, of people who love Yorda to those who hate her. Because the ones who say like that she's great are like you have to hold her hand and you get to feel that, and your character moves differently, and you feel that tactile sense of it, and it's like you're taking care of her and personally, and so on and so forth. And like I can understand that because the first time I played the game, that's definitely what I felt, and I loved Yorda. And I except there's a part at the end because you're not going to get there because you're not going to finish it. But there's a part at the end where you go out onto this bridge, and the bridge starts like the middle of it like sort of starts pulling away from itself. That doesn't make any sense. But like imagine like there's two halves of a bridge
Uh-huh.
that like extend and then now they're receding.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's this big gap that's getting bigger and bigger in size, and Yorda's on one side and Aiko's on the other.
Uh-huh.
Um, the implicit thing that you're supposed to do is you're supposed to love Yorda so much that you jump over just to be with Yorda when you have a chance to escape. And I even as much as I like Yorda, I still didn't do that. So I just sort of stood on my side of the thing. I
Oh,
was like,
really?
well, bye, and then I died. And it's like, oh, I guess I was supposed to do the other thing. But yeah, when I was the first time I played it when I was younger, I really liked it because just the paternal aspects of it, and, like taking care of her or whatever. And now I play it, and I'm just like, you are so dumb.
Yeah.
I don't like taking care of you. You're
No.
like a child, dumb, and I just want you to be more autonomous, and I don't want to have to worry about you all the time.
Yeah, it's like it's crippling in a way. Like you describe the combat as what was it? How do you describe it?
Suspenseful.
Suspenseful. I describe it as frustrating because maybe it would be
I
different if I
still I
wasn't.
still do think it's suspenseful, even though I hate Yorda now. I still do think it's very
I think
suspenseful.
it's just the fact that Aiko is also a child. Maybe it's just like why can't I can take care of myself? Why can't you take care of yourself? Like Aiko, like the way I've been describing it to people that I've talked to about it is like Aiko has a stick. He's not like a Fable 2 hero. He doesn't have magic. He doesn't have, it's not like he has something that Yorda doesn't. Yorda could have a stick easily and fight off the shadow people with me. Instead, she just stands there, sometimes close to them. Like she doesn't even do me the courtesy of running away. She stands there and lets them take her. And I'm just like, ah! I'm getting like overrun by all these people. I'm like, why can't you do things? Like, run to the next room, do something. And then like all the puzzles are predicated on like because there's always I feel like a chain involved in the puzzles that you have to climb. And she can like open these crazy doors with her magic whatever, but she can't climb a fucking chain? Really? Really? I can climb a chain. I'm like 5. Why can't you do things? And it doesn't work for me at all. And like maybe it's also because I'm a girl and I hate just the useless girl character. Like, really, you want me to like lead you around by the hand? This is so fucking dumb, and I just can't get it. I just like I feel guilty dropping games. Though is the thing. But you told me that like it's pretty much is it just like based on the fact that you like Yorda? Is that like what the game is supposed to be?
Well, to some extent, yeah. I mean, if you hate the game because you don't like carrying Yorda around and doing things with Yorda, then that ain't gonna change. Like
Yeah,
that's the game.
yeah,
So I mean, I'm glad I have the memories of enjoying the game as much as I did, but I can't go back to it. I just can't.
What do you think's changed that made you now dislike Yorda?
I I'm kind of not sure because maybe when I was the first time I played it, I was young enough that I hadn't seen a lot of good examples of like this is a really cool NPC character that you're gonna care about or whatever. So Yorda to me back then seemed more like just an item that I accidentally ended up sympathizing with, and I didn't expect to. But now, like, hey, you're gonna sympathize with this NPC is like the proposal that most story-based games have. Like even fucking Borderlands had a bit of that. BioShock has some of that. It's just part of the fabric of the game's story now. And maybe when I came to it with that assumption, like, hey, she's gonna be like a cool character that I'm gonna like, then she begins to fall apart because she's like the weighted companion cube except less helpful,
Yeah.
essentially. Well, the weighted companion cube is nothing but helpfulness, so I take that back. She's like the exact inverse
Yeah, she's
of
the inverse of
the
the
weighted
dog in
companion cube.
Fable 2 and of the weighted companion cube.
Yeah.
I just ugh. And I also like I think I was talking to Justin briefly about this. It's just like we hate parts in games where you have to protect things. It's like the most stressful thing because like I don't know why it's like or like in BioShock when you're supposed to protect the little sister. I was like, I don't wanna because like I know they want me to, but it's just like having
It's more fun in BioShock 2. It's way more fun in BioShock 2. That's just a shitty part of BioShock 1.
maybe yeah. It's just like a stressful
Yeah.
thing because it's like you're worrying enough about your or at least for me it's like I'm worrying about enough about myself like I don't like because whenever I get into a game, I'm just like I have a very like lack of confidence when it comes to games. I don't think I'm good at them, and so I go into everyone thinking like this is gonna be hard, and then I'm worrying so much about like fending off shadow people or being able to aim my gun on a fucking Xbox controller, which I'm still so terrible at. And so that like throwing in someone else that I have to deal with is just like, ah, no, I'm having enough trouble on my own right now. Um, so yeah, I don't know.
No, I understand. I mean, it's that's a sort of universal gamer hatred. I think is like escort missions and things like that
Yeah,
because it's just the AI is never going to be good enough for it to do things that you would expect it to do. Like, because you know when you're playing fucking Ico, you're assuming like, why don't you just go do this? Because you're a human being and you should be able to do this. But the AI just is not there, which is why the way the companion cube is such a good thing. Because it's like you're never expecting anything of it because it's a fucking cube. So you're not angry that the cube can't do shit for you or whatever. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. You'll like Shadow of the Colossus way better because it's all about you being awesome and there's nobody to worry about.
Yeah.
I mean, there's you're going to revive this girl, but like that's just such a like mythic classic and never explained really in full story that it's pretty fine. Like you get to sort of it's like the Takeshi Kitano style of storytelling. It's like I'm going to tell you like three details about this thing, and then you make up the rest, and it's going to feel way more personal because whatever you could come up with is better than whatever I could come up with.
Yeah.
And then I read a bunch of like theories as to what the actual story is of Shadow of the Colossus, and they all made sense. And I was like, God damn it, there's a real story. Fuck.
Fuck.
And I'm pissed, but otherwise. So what else? Are you playing anything else, or was it just those two?
um, I finished Fable 2 and then I started playing Ico and now well, I just started Saints Row 2.
Hmm.
Like just today. You saw me do it. My character looks too Asian for me. I don't look that Asian. I probably should have done the Hispanic thing because it's just like I feel like there's something so inherently Asian about the default Asian person, and I don't look that Asian. I've never said Asian so much in my life. Um, but I chose to have the male Cockney accent, and it's really hilarious.
It's awesome.
Whenever there's a cutscene, it's pretty great. Um,
Yeah, but I basically told you to play that because you need to play at least one Grand Theft Auto type game, and I think that's by far the best Grand Theft Auto type game around. That Red Dead Redemption,
yeah,
which you played a little bit of, but
yeah. Mostly I just killed innocent people because Christina goaded me into it.
well, I mean that's a game I mean that's the thing about most. I was telling you this before, but like that's the thing about most Rockstar games is that like the people's complaints like oh they're all about killing and all about being a bad person and stuff are pretty much warranted because you have no freedom to do anything other than be
Be
horrible
horrible.
apart like there are I mean it's like the Fable 2 thing like okay there are two versions of this game and in one you're doing story missions and in one you're doing horrible things but at least in Fable 2 you're the other game the you have some freedom to sort of define who you are and what's going on
Yeah,
like you get to buy property or save slaves or do all these things that are good and maybe just define your own experience like in Grand Theft Auto 4 you literally have two choices and that's do the fucking story missions or run around killing people like a maniac those are the only two things you can do and I ended up doing a lot of the latter just because it made me that was the absolute minimum of freedom I had and I just that was all I could do to feel like I had any degree of control or say in what was going on
yeah,
and I felt like a dick for killing all those people in that hospital. But fuck it, it was like the only control I had. It was, it
yeah.
was a bummer. But Saints Row 2 is good in that it's ludicrous and shit, but at least it knows that
It
it's
knows it's yeah.
ludicrous. So that it never, except for a couple of really awkward and bad moments, it never tries to ascribe any degree of morality to what you're doing. So it's like, hey, go fucking surf on a car and then spray shit on a house, and yeah, fuck yeah, this story is about killing gangsters and being the coolest gangster, but who cares? Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that they'll let me be a female but also have a male Cockney accent. It's kind of
Yeah,
yeah,
that's appreciable.
yeah.
Shit, I didn't ask people to tweet us questions.
Dumb.
I'm gonna do that while you say stuff.
Oh Jesus.
Come up with stuff to say.
Oh, Anthony and Ashley are having their marriage ceremony on Saturday.
Yeah, and if you're not invited
Yay!
already, then don't come because we're probably gonna have
Yay!
way too many people.
Yay! Um, I
I'm
got.
scared.
Should I tell them what I got you
Yeah,
for
no,
a
go
wedding
ahead, go
gift?
ahead. I'll post a picture of it at some point anyway.
Okay. Anthony, like literally like the day after they officially got married, just started, or maybe before that.
It was fun. It was this one time where we were just all of us were sitting in this computer room, and I was just like sitting on the bed, and you and Davis were doing stuff. And at one point, I just went like, because when I'm comfortable enough around someone, I just say things without thinking about them, and just like most of it's nonsense. So at one point, I was just like Davis, and she was like, "Huh?" And I was like Blavis, and she was like, "Oh." And it was just this like these four words that like perfectly encapsulated whatever our relationship was. Like she assumed I had something really important to say, and then when I said something, it was just a weird perversion of her name. She was like, "Okay, it's just Anthony being Anthony." I don't know, something about that I
It was
liked.
just
So
really,
it's
I
like,
thought it was really funny. I laughed for like an hour. And
yeah,
so since then, he's been calling her Blavis like all the time. And she's like, "Is that just what you're gonna call me now?" She was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna call you Blavis." And so I was with Christina at the mall. At the mall, she was doing something, but we were walking past an airbrush store, and I was like, "Oh my god, I have an idea." And so yesterday I went back with her, and I got an airbrush shirt that says Blavis for Ashley, and then another one that says Team Blavis for Anthony, and it's like in cursive airbrush with like a
it's
little like
it's like
blue.
for my homies or for my
Yeah,
sisters.
it's like if you've ever seen an airbrush store in the mall, that's what it looks like. And it was like it's like outlined with blue, and then it has like little shimmers on the letters to make them look like they're like glistening in the light. And I think you guys are gonna wear them on Saturday.
Possibly.
Nice. um, oh, but they might get wet. I guess. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if they get wet.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Um,
The wetness is going to be good enough.
yeah. So that was my wedding gift to them.
And they're pretty much awesome. But I kind of want to wear I want to wear the one that just says Blavis and get Davis to wear the one that says Team
Team
Blavis.
Blavis, like she's her own team.
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm the for real deal.
I mean, you're actually Blavis.
I played Modern Warfare 2 again, the campaign recently, and like I'm thinking about because it's this weird thing because like after I stopped having to write what I thought about games for a period of time, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna never write about game how I feel about games again. Fuck that. Like not because I like hate doing it or anything like that. It was just the fact that I used to have to do it and now don't just makes me want to exercise that right as freakishly as I can. Um, but now that I'm actually playing games, like no, I want to write about games again. So I was thinking about writing like something about like everybody thinks I'm the guy who hates all kinds of games and stuff like that, and that's not really entirely true because I was playing Modern Warfare 2 and there are so many things about the game that are like immature and irresponsible and stupid and the wrong direction to game for games to go in certain respects. But like it is just the best fucking roller coaster ever. Like every time I play that game, like I'm still like like even though I know what's gonna happen, I'm like pumped and fucking I want to like shoot shit in the face and like fucking melee people and there's this part where like Hans Zimmer's music is like going into this big like crescendo because these fucking like silo doors are open on a submarine and this guy says this thing and then the fucking missile launches and then somebody's like no and I get the fucking chills because there's something about my Y chromosome. I have some sort of there's some sort of gland in my mind that has to be tickled every once in a while or can forgive everything else if it is tickled, which is like the epic awesome. I need to see something epic and awesome that has been built up to appropriately, and whether that is epic and awesome through music or because like it actually is meaningful or whatever, like even if it's not that great, like my enjoyment of Gurren Lagann mostly stems from the fact that it tickled that. And like all the shitty episodes of Buffy are completely made up for me by the season 3 finale because it was just like absurdly epic and cool and shit like that. And like Modern Warfare 2 is nothing but an excuse to just keep getting to those moments. Like it doesn't care about logic and it doesn't care about where the story is going or if anything makes sense or why the guy is saying, "Hey, don't speak Russian" if he's like a known criminal who is Russian and they have security cameras so they know who he is anyway and they're recording noises of what's going on in the elevator anyway. But just like as much as I'll be like, no, Russian is fucking irresponsible and stupid, and they shouldn't be doing it, and these guys are fucking immature, like 6-year-olds. Like, I really want to play the third game. I'm really looking forward to fucking Modern Warfare 3, and I think that I don't know if that makes me hypocritical, but it probably does. Probably. Um. Okay, we got some tweets.
Tweets.
Tweets. Oh, ICS Comic asked, did having an already married character in Red Dead Redemption change how perceived what you did in game?
Yes.
It was bullshit.
It was bullshit. I didn't even like get. I've like all I've done in so far in Red Dead Redemption is just like shoot innocent people, just like on Anthony's game file. I haven't like started my own game, and it still pisses me off because it's just like it's this like there's no point that you should have because I think Christina asked her something, and she was like, "Can I like have sex with hookers?" And you're like, "No, he's married, and he has to do this thing." Blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I know you like it because it's so open world, but then there's also like bullshit linear stuff like that that you have to deal with.
Yeah. I think if you're making an open world game like that where there is, I mean, even ignoring the fact that the game has like a morality meter, which would be a pretty straightforward, explanation of like, hey, you should be able to do whatever you want. Like even ignoring that, if you're just making an open world game where you can sort of do whatever you want, then it's so irritating to me that so many games then go and say, "Oh, also you're playing this character who has these predefined personality traits and his own sort of way of doing things, and you can do whatever you want in like the regular part of the game, but we're gonna ignore it when it gets to the story stuff because we think our story is more important than the character that you want to create." Like the fucking like the end. A lot of people talked about the end of Red Dead Redemption as being this super awesome, cool thing because it's like kind of sad and it's kind of developed through gameplay and it's not expected. And it's like, man, Rockstar's being really mature because they're not showing like dicks anymore. But it's like I don't want to spoil it, but basically there's a choice that the character John Marston makes that I have absolutely no say in. And the kind of character that I made John Marston just in the actual gameplay would have never done the thing that the end of the game forces him to do. And it feels like I'm abdicating, or like the game should be abdicating some degree of authorship to me. If I'm
Yeah.
playing and I'm doing all this wacky stuff, then let me fucking decide what I want to do.
Right.
You know, whether or not that means putting in little moral choices or just not making a story that is about like a character doing a particular thing, whatever. But like, don't fucking tell me that I'm gonna do this thing when nothing I did previously is gonna do that because you're
Right.
guaranteeing that like a good third or half of the people who played your game that's gonna be disharmonious, even if only subconsciously it's gonna be disharmonious and weird. And GTA 4 is way worse at that than Red Dead Redemption is to some extent. But like my favorite parts of Red Dead Redemption had absolutely nothing to do with the story and the presence of the story and the story missions and the fact that John Marston is this other character with his own voice actively detracted from the experience to me. Like without question, I'm just sort of flabbergasted that I think it's just because Rockstar keeps making money, so they assume like, well, this is fucking working and everybody loves it, yay! When in reality, everybody's just like, I just kind of want to dick around and like, okay, I'll deal with the other stuff because I haven't actually been exposed to something better yet. So, okay, cool, yay! But it just, ugh.
Yeah.
All the great stuff in that game is tempered by some really awful stuff, which is why the multiplayer is so good. Because it's just like, hey, you want to dick around with your friends and go do like incredible stuff and make your own stories and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, and then it fucking happens and it's cool.
Yeah.
Me and Brad and Submit and Grim spent about 20 minutes just going up to this particular spot on a cliff that we found, where if you call your horses, they will run at you with such a velocity and it's such a downward slope that if you shoot them in the face as they're at the certain part of the cliff, then they will just fly off the fucking cliff and go wah, and just like we just made a horse graveyard and then started doing suicide clubs where we would jump off together and like there was this one moment where there are these little gang outposts that you can go and fight to get XP for your guys and whatever. And it was me, Lindy, Brad, and Graham, and maybe Submit, and we were just sort of hanging out. And they wanted to go do some stuff before we got to the next part, and I was like, well, I kind of want to do it first. So I went ahead and started just fighting some of the guys, and like, did you go ahead of us? And I was like, yeah, sorry, yeah, I guess I'll try to get out while still shooting the guys because I wanted XP. And then I got trapped in this one little room, or one little building within this sort of hacienda area, and some reinforcements showed up and started throwing Molotovs at the place. And I was just trapped in this room and I couldn't get out without getting burned alive. And just as that happened, the sun began to set and it began to get dark as they were throwing Molotovs. And just as one Molotov finally went into the room and hit me and I got set on fire, Lindy and the rest of the cavalry showed up and like burst through the fucking doors of the hacienda and like started jumping over stuff and shooting people in the face. And I got out and like got to shoot with them. And it was this fucking magical, incredible moment and Rockstar had absolutely nothing to do with that in terms of like scripting certain things to happen or telling me that this was going to be a really cool mission and putting me in that situation. It just happened because of the mechanics they laid out and that they would not that they didn't put the amount of effort into like if they'd taken all the effort and all the production bullshit that they had put toward the scripted stuff and the cutscenes and just made it toward like let's make more mechanics that create awesome emergent story moments like this and just encourage players to do that kind of stuff like it would be so mind-blowingly good that I would still be playing it. I mean you could play it infinitely in that kind of way but maybe that's a bad thing because then you don't buy any more games or whatever but
But still, you get a lot of mileage out of that one game.
yeah. um oh there's some doctor questions we got to get to that at the end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. um
Oh, I wanted to do a quick self plug.
Go ahead.
If you haven't watched Donna yet, please do. It's a short film that my BF made that I'm in, and it's like 5 minutes long. It's not that long. So if
It's pretty long for people who like Hey Ash.
I guess so, yeah. It's like 2 episodes back to back. It's like a
It's
it's like
like
a double
four
one.
episodes back to back,
It's
given how short they are
it's
now.
like 4 episodes back to back. Um, but yeah, we'd appreciate it if you watched it. It like broke 5,000 views, but I know he would like it a little, like a few more people to see it at least. So if you haven't watched it already,
12 more people.
12 more people.
We gotta get it to
Exactly.
5,012.
We need, I mean, 12 more people exactly. So get in line. Just kidding. Okay. Keep going.
Griff Plar wanted to know what Blavis will be known as when she marries me, and
Blavis.
Blavis, I, legally she'll be Ashley Birch, but professionally, to avoid confusion, she will be Ashley Davis.
And it's
Because
crazy because there are two Ashley Birches living in
yeah,
here.
because we don't need a bunch of Ashley Birches fucking running around.
Yeah.
Um, Paul Puckle Schmuckle asks, good name. He says, "Do you think another Lost is possible, like a long-running mystery sci-fi saga, or does Lost cast too big of a shadow?"
I don't really like Lost, so I can't. I hope there's not another one that's like Lost.
Yeah, I'm
Um, I just think that. What is Heroes still going on?
no, it got canceled.
Oh, it did.
They might do a TV movie to wrap up all the loose ends, but the show itself is dead.
Oh, okay. Well, I just think shows like that. That's the problem that I mean, that's part of the reason that I like Russell T Davies so much, and why, when he completely failed, it didn't make any sense to me because you can tell that he was like planning out his seasons to some degree because he would like layer in, little hints to stuff coming in later. Um, I think more people just need to be Joss Whedon essentially because obviously Joss Whedon knows where he's going with his stories. He has an end game. He's figured it out. Like he knew what the Reavers were gonna be. He knew it was gonna end up like he knew he was heading towards Serenity all the time. It just
Hmm.
like he didn't get a chance to get there. But I just know that all the Lost creators like, and it just boggles my mind why people don't like believe that they have a plan. Like there's just too much. There's too much going
There,
on
were-
in
there,
this.
well, there was a plan, but the end game of the plan is just magic.
Yeah,
Like
which
that was the way that
was
BSG
it.
was
Do
as
you really
well.
think that it was like all like they weren't just like pulling something out of their ass?
No, I believe that the specifics they were probably pulling out of their ass, but the thematic stuff they were like, okay, this is gonna be about like science versus faith, and at the end, like faith is gonna win because it's about fucking like the afterlife and people being awesome in the afterlife and like being good people to one another and connecting on an emotional level or whatever. Like, which is fine, and that's a perfectly valid theme to have. Um, but based on like what Ryan Freeburn was saying, like the problem for me, like I used to think that it was possible to have a show or to have shows that were based around very heavily around what is the answer to this question because it's a really good reason to keep you tuning in and stuff like that. But like A, the answer to the question is never going to be as good as you think it is, and B,
Yeah.
usually if you complicate the question enough to keep people watching, then your answer inherently has to be bullshit. And I can't
Mm-hmm.
speak to Lost to the fullest extent because I watched up to like season three and then just stopped because I was tired of being so cynically manipulated by just keeping me watching by just introducing new things. Oh, there's two islands. There's actually a heart pacer in your thing that's going to kill you. Oh, actually not. Blah, blah. Like just continually trying to fuck with me just to keep me
Yeah.
around.
I think it just.
But like ESG absolutely did not work based on their capital B, capital Q, big question because it was just too. There's too much to answer, and the fact that it drew so much attention to itself made you think, oh God, what's it going to be? It's going to be something great, 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 and then it fucking wasn't at all. It just doesn't work. I think the reason Serenity works is because what is River's secret is not the defining driving force of the show. It is a secondary question that you don't really care about, and if it never get answered, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
what is inside the void ship is not the driving force of Doctor Who season two. What's Bad Wolf is there, but and it's actually a very very strong mystery. And then you get to the end of season one, and the answer to what is Bad Wolf is actually kind of shitty. Like that's one of the worst overarching things ever. But like season three, who's Mr. Saxon? It doesn't really matter. So that when you get to it, like you can't really be super disappointed about it because who cares? Um, I think question driven storytelling is like J.J. Abrams had that whole talk he gave at TED about the magic box or the question box or something like that, and it was this big thing that went around the blogs for a little while because he was talking about how like his grandpa or something like that bought him this box at a magic shop, and you could pay $5 and get a bunch of shit in the box, and you wouldn't know what it was until you opened it, so they could basically scam you if they wanted to or whatever. And he was saying like this is how I want to make movies and TV
That's
shows and stuff like that.
terrible.
And it's so cynical and disrespectful to
It's
the
yeah, it's just
audience.
really disrespectful to your audience. That's what I was gonna say. It's just like you think because like when we watched Heroes, we actually watched it like on
Yeah,
TV.
Heroes, that's another one.
Yeah,
Big question, horrible answer.
it's terrible, and like it literally at the end of every episode they introduced a new big question, like or they introduced a new catchphrase or a new tagline or something like that. Like it was just that one liner thing that'll keep people coming back, and it's so disrespectful, and it's so lazy too. It's like you can't take the time to like actually make an interesting or engaging storyline or interesting engaging characters, you just have to throw out these one-liners to get people to come back. Like it's just really lazy. It's lazy storytelling.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like Heroes, I remember I had to I just like it was like it should have been everything that I wanted in a show, essentially. I was just like, oh man, superheroes, awesome, I'm into it. And then I watched the first episode, I was like, Jesus, this dialogue is terrible, and like the characters are kind of like dumb. But for some reason, I kept watching, and then we got to Company Man or whatever. I think it's because I liked Hero, because Hero is
Mhm.
like endearing and adorable. But like we got to Company Man, which I remember is like it was written by the guy that writes for Pushing or wrote for Pushing Daisies, and
Brian Fuller.
Brian Fuller, I think, who's a really great writer. And that episode's fantastic. I remember us both really liking that one.
Because it's super character driven.
Yeah, it's completely character driven. It's all about Hornroom Glasses, who we thought was like one of the cooler characters. And then so we're like, okay, Faith, was not misplaced potentially. It might be worth to keep watching. And then it just got progressively worse and worse. And then the huge finale where everyone's supposed to be in the same place, which is the biggest letdown. Like I think that was worse for me than any like Doctor Who season finale.
Because they make it's like they make this specific promise of this is an image you are going to see. You're going to see all these characters in New York, specifically in New York, in these outfits. This moment is going to be explained how they all got here, why, and rather than like a really cool, like Tarantino-esque or like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrel-esque explanation for how all these disparate guys got here that makes perfect sense and feeds into the story well. It was just like this self-fulfilling prophecy where every character knew that they had to be there, so that's why they were there, which
Yeah.
is a horrible fucking explanation.
Yeah, and the ending fight with Sylar was like
2 seconds.
yeah, it was like something happens and then Peter punches him and then that's it. And then and by the way, he's still alive. Like I was so angry after that. I was like, "Really? Really? I invested all this time in this fucking show and this is what you gave me?" And I just stopped watching after that.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, if you're gonna build something around those big questions, you have to be able to deliver, and like almost nobody can actually deliver
yeah.
on a question that big. Like, I don't even know if Joss Whedon could do it if he made a mystery-driven like central show.
Yeah.
And even then, and even Joss Whedon screws up from time to time. There are certain Buffy seasons, like one and two, have pretty unspectacular endings, and some people were just disappointed uh, with Serenity, but like you have to be able to somehow make that epicness awesome as people are imagining, and as plausible and real as it should be to feel like as good as it can be. And almost nobody can fucking do that just because the nature of a mystery driven 20-hour show is just it raises expectations so much that it's like fucking impossible. Because like I know a lot of people like the Lost finale, but most of the people I've heard talking about how much they like it, and I don't mean to sound like a dick about this, but they sound like they're trying to convince themselves of something to some extent.
Mhm.
Like they're making a lot of excuses for questions that they thought would get answered but wouldn't, or they're saying that like, well, the larger question, the ones that really mattered, were answered, or like thematic questions were answered. Which okay, fine, but like if you're gonna at least partially not if you can't follow through 100% on everything you promise in terms of epicness, in terms of question answered, in terms of all that stuff, then why are you asking these questions in the first place and planting these mysteries in your audience's mind? It's just super disrespectful. And I can say that I can't say what I'm working on a Gearbox, but I will say that like I'm not my Gearbox game is not going to be driven by mysteries and just trying to confuse you and keep things going. I mean, it'll have twists and turns and like awesomeness, and it'll be the Citizen Kane of gaming or whatever. But it's just I really kind of hate that kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
Which is what scares me because Gabe Newell was like, we want the Half-Life episodes to be like something J.J. Abrams did. And I was like, no, don't do that,
No,
please,
don't
don't
do
do
it.
that.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
But thankfully, whatever like mysteries are there, are just I don't know. They're like what you need to do is every time you answer a question, propose two more. It's like no, that's fucking disrespectful. I don't want to deal with that all the time.
Yeah.
Can I just like care about Alex? Don't do that, please. Release episode 3 already. I hate you. Um, but yeah. But people have all these questions that assume we are trendier people than we are. Like, what's your favorite podcast? It's like, we don't listen to podcasts. Um, say something while I look.
um. Oh dear. Well, I don't have anything to say.
So cut down the tree. Wanted to know: are you and your sister getting married soon? Hardy, hardy,
Hardy
har,
har har har.
hardy, har. Um, Lazaro Cruz wanted to know if you could pick any movie to be used as inspiration for a game, what would it be?
Any movie to be used as inspiration for a game? Serenity.
An MMO?
Yeah.
A Momopico?
A MMO. A MMO. Or, yeah, Serenity, I think. Because we were talking about how badass it would be to be able to do an MMO with a Firefly.
Pretty much. Um, Jinachi wants to know who our heroes were when we were growing up. Which people inspired you to do what you were doing now?
Oh. Um. Gary Oldman.
Is your goal to get have a kid and then get super drunk all the time?
No. My goal is to be a badass actor.
My
Um.
goal is to be British
My goal is to be
man.
British. Is be a British man. And that's in Batman. Um. I looked up to actors, which is probably not a good, they're not good role models, but as far as like what I was interested in doing and like if they were good at at what they did. So I liked Johnny Depp a lot when I was younger, pre Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, you liked him before it was
I
cool.
liked him before he was cool. Thanks very much. Gary Oldman. Uh,
I didn't have any role
yeah.
models. I never really had anybody I looked up to. Mostly because I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do.
Stephen Fry.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never really knew what I wanted to. I had very vague things that I want to do. Like, I want to do something creative. And so I was like, maybe I want to make games, and I spent a year making a game. I was like, maybe I want to fucking make movies, and then I just made movies with my friends for like 8 years,
Yeah.
and now I get to do both,
Whoop
and I
whoop.
win.
And you win.
Yay! I,
Yay.
I really just lucked out into everything. I don't deserve any of this. I didn't have any role models I followed or anything. I just stumbled into success. I hate myself.
What?
Um, KEF wanted to know when is the Gearbox podcast coming? That is what all the cool bloggers turned developers did. After all, I actually have no idea. I don't know if they do a podcast. I don't even know like to what extent I will be like. This is not supposed to like reflect that like Gearbox is some sort of authoritarian group because I this is literally me just not knowing anything about the industry or about the company specifically. Like I don't even know if I'm still gonna be allowed to like say wacky shit like when people ask me questions. I mean I don't know if I'll be able to talk to people at PAX and say stuff or if it'll have to be off the record because I'm just thinking me as a blogger like I know that every time anybody says anything to a blogger it will be not necessarily it'll be taken out of context. They'll post one sentence as part of the headline and it'll be true, but the things that make it seem less offensive and scary and disrespectful to other developers will be either in the body text or not mentioned at all or people won't see it and it's bad for everybody. It's bad for the person saying it's bad for the company, it's bad for the person's future prospects. So like I'm not even sure to what extent I will be saying wacky shit, and I tend to say wacky shit on podcasts. So, I mean, presumably Gearbox is a pretty fucking chill company, so I don't think it's gonna be like I'm walking around with a fucking gag in my mouth all the time. But I'm trying to be super careful just on the off chance that I piss people off who I work with or don't work with or whatever, because now I actually have to be careful. Whereas being a blogger, your job was to piss people off, because if you're not, then you're probably not being honest in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right. Kpax wants to know what makes you angriest.
What makes me angriest?
I got that question in my interview.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I said intolerance, and then I paused for a really long time, and then I said Jews, and then I got the job.
um, yeah, I guess intolerance would be a good one. Homophobes don't make any sense to me ever.
The Westboro Baptist Church is very near where I will be moving.
Oh dear,
That's gonna be
that's unfortunate.
awesome. I get to drive by God hates fag signs, and
Awesome. You
God
should.
loves dead troops or whatever.
Well, when you're bored, sometimes you can just stand next to them with "I love homosexuals" signs or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
There was that one guy who said that he would to turn the Westboro protests into something positive, he would basically go follow them around and just set up booths for donations to like the Human Rights Campaign and stuff like that, so that all the attention they got could possibly be funneled into something positive. It's
oh,
like,
that's
goddamn.
nice.
And he's like 16. It's like, stop being smarter than I am. And stop being smarter and like more Martin Luther King esque than anyone. Asshole.
But yeah, that pretty much, and yeah, any kind of intolerance or just people being, I guess, like, since I watched that documentary about Deliver Us from Evil, the fact that that guy is just walking around Ireland free as a bird really makes me angry. So I guess child molesters and intolerance. There you go.
So the Catholic Church, oh God,
Oh,
work,
whackity
blasphemy.
schmackity doo.
I don't know anything about religion. Um, that's actually a good question. Sleepwalker82 wants to know, having heard repeatedly about your love for The Sims, Far Cry, and Half-Life, how come there isn't any HAWP based on them?
Oh.
Well,
Well, we're gonna
we
have
got
one on The Sims, actually.
we got one on Far Cry, but it's kind of just a kooky dialogue one. I don't know if it'll work. Probably will. I hope so. But
And then we have one coming out for The Sims. Half-Life, I don't know. I don't know what to do with it.
yeah, it's a hard one
Yeah. I
because
mean,
it's
the
just
best.
fucking super good,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't know. The story is so based around like kooky mysteries and stuff that we don't really know the full extent of that it's kind of hard to like to make fun of or just to even to comment on what things are. Because and like the Half-Life universe itself is kind of funny. Like the Portal universe is like a hilarious universe and stuff, and we just don't know what the fuck we would do, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a long period of time where I was like, we'll do the something where it's like all first person and your arm is like actually it's like a first person thing and it's all one shot and it's uninterrupted, like just like the Half-Life games. And then we were like, well, what would be funny about that? And it's like, shut up. So I don't know.
Yeah.
More often than not, I think we have ideas. I mean, and not maybe not recently because you actually started playing games and writing articles based on or writing scripts based on them. But a lot of the time, it's just we come up with some funny exchange and then find a way to tie it into a game sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's vice versa. I don't know. It's weird.
It's weird.
It's weird. Okay, so it's been an hour. You want to talk about Doctor
Yes.
Who?
I
We got a lot of questions about that, and by a lot, I mean like five.
do.
That's still a lot, though. Um, Let me just find. Um, One of them wanted to know why they think Doctor Who's so hit and miss all the time, but I think it's just because it's a television show,
Yeah.
and they tend to be. Ratsor asked, "Do you like Matt Smith's Doctor in spite of the other crap Stephen Moffat puts him through? I wish Matt could do some Davy stuff."
I do too. Think. I mean, we talked about this. Did we talk about this on the podcast or just in person in
I
life?
know.
Um, just the fact I just feel like Matt Smith isn't really doing a lot, which sounds weird because he's in every episode, and like I just feel like still I just feel like I knew 9 and I knew 10 a lot more by this point than I know 11. I don't. I think it's maybe just because Amy is so boring and there's just nothing.
Oh yeah, we did talk about this on the podcast.
Okay, yeah, because
But
like
she doesn't bring interesting things out of him.
yeah, and I feel like I got more out of him personality wise when he was with River Song in that one episode. Like,
Or in the 11th hour when it's just him alone most of the time.
yeah, it's just and obviously like he had to have a lot of personality in the first episode because it's the first episode, but I I kind of know I don't know. I just feel like everything is plot driven in this series. Like within every self-contained episode, it's much more important that you find out what the monster is, or I don't know. I guess that's always been Doctor Who, but at the same time, I just feel like Russell T Davies was so much more concerned with character than Stephen Moffat is, and it's frustrating because I would like to spend more time with the Doctor. Like we were talking about that the one with the guy that played Truman Capote the second time,
The Dream Lord.
the Dream Lord episode. It should have been amazing, and it fell so flat.
Yeah. It was almost like, it was almost the Moffat edition of Father's Day, the season 1 episode, which is really good. But it was just we had this long conversation because I was trying to figure out because it didn't work for me. It wasn't outwardly bad, it was just okay. And I was trying to figure out why it was just okay, and I was like really, really angry at myself for not knowing that why because I was because my biggest terror, my biggest fear is that I write this game for Gearbox and it comes out and the story is okay. Like that is my absolute biggest fear. Not that it's bad, just that it's okay, and that
Right.
everyone is just sort of okay. And like that's that. So I needed to be able to figure out why it was just okay, and it was because like Amy, Amy making that choice only matters if there's like a version of Amy that we feel like we actually know beforehand, uh, and we don't, because Amy's personality is I'm hot and I'm sassy and I'm always really super on top of things,
Yeah.
and that's it. that's my personality. Like, I mean, I can understand people not liking Rose, but they're not liking Rose because of who she is as a person was repulsive to them. Because she is petty, she is very selfish. She's a strong person in that she will not take anything anybody says at face value, and she'll challenge the Doctor on things as small as the TARDIS translation getting into her head, and stuff like that. And there are things about her that are definitely unlikable, but they're unlikable as they would be in a real person.
Yeah.
Amy to me is super unlikable because there is nothing there. She is really smart when the plot demands she be really smart. And like, okay, just taking for instance the fact that we talked about before that she would make out with the Doctor doesn't make sense for someone who has lived their entire life thinking that this guy's going to come and take him away. You're either completely in love with him or you have a completely platonic relationship. Wanting to fuck him once and then just leave makes no sense. But in addition to that, the fact that it is never followed up on in any really significant way. Like
Yeah.
Rory and the Doctor share about 5 words about it. Rory and Amy share about 5 words about it before Amy tells him to shut up and stop being a little bitch, and that's it. And then Rory fucking dies, and we never hear anything else about that. And like, if and I was talking to I think I was talking to Ian about this, Ian Wexler, and I was saying, like, can you imagine how like Martha and the Doctor's relationship would have changed if Martha had tried to make out with him? Like how the entirety of like series 3 would have been just existing under this incredibly like awkward pall of sexual tension and not
Yeah.
quite knowing what to do. Like it would have been impossible to ignore, and you would have felt it in every single scene, and it would have been like real. But in this one, it's like, okay, she made out with him. I guess that means that they need to go to Venice with Rory. Cool. I guess I'll see you at the finale. Like that. I mean, that's to me what this is doing right now, and it doesn't feel at all legitimate. That's
Yeah.
that's why Amy's choice doesn't work because it's just like I choose Rory. It's like okay,
Why? Yeah.
why? You're never nice to him. Like the show was trying to tell us that she loves Rory without ever actually explaining
Yeah, or
why.
ever showing it ever.
Yeah. Um, which is why like when Rory dies, in the this most recent episode, like I was sad because I really like Rory. Like he's one of the few characters that feels believable to me in some way. But it was just such a weird thing. Like A, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
B the next episode is like, hey, we get to hang out with Vincent Van Gogh, yay! And like,
Yeah.
well, I'm like, Rory's dead. What's going on?
Yeah.
Um,
And that was such a cheap, like, having him be erased was like such a cheap way of not exploring that emotionally in Amy. You know?
I hadn't considered it that way, but that's a fair point.
Like,
Although I will say that I did, but I did believe her agony over it more than I did in Amy's choice. Probably though, because in Amy's choice, when Rory dies, it doesn't feel like he actually died because like, oh, he just woke up in the other place. Like I don't care. Like in this one,
yeah.
when he dies, he actually dies, so I can sort of understand her fear about it more. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I do understand what you're saying.
Because, like, it's just an easy way of them being like, well, if she never knows about it, then she never knows about it. Yay. Like, we don't have to deal with that. Like, I mean, maybe it'll come back and she'll remember and be
I'm
freaked
sure
out.
they'll probably come
Yeah.
back. He died so inauspiciously. There's got to be some way that it's going to come back, and the doctor's going to undo it or whatever. But
Yeah.
there's a I have very little sense of who this doctor is, and that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Like, I just wish he would get a better companion. I'm more than happy to stick with the show for another season, but like, I think if by the end of the second season I haven't gotten something really to sink my teeth into, because like if you look at the Russell T Davies era, it's like okay, season one is this is a story of a girl who meets an alien and is trying to come to grips with what that means and who he is and who she is in relation to this. Season two is about a girl who is in love with an alien and trying to come to grips with the fact that he's this new man, and he's trying to come to grips with the fact that he probably really loves her, and then her knowing that she's going to die. Season three is about an alien who has lost everything and is trying to maybe get some of his soul back. Season four is about I don't know. Season four is kind of random.
It's about, he's healing, though. Cause,
He's healing,
Yeah. Because he's with
right?
Ghana and he's actually having fun again. And
Yeah, but even that's like that's probably the most lightweight of the season. But then the season five is about a man who knows he's going to die, and it's fucking incredible. But like, what is season one about right now? Or season five, sorry, what we're on right now, this first 11th Doctor season. It's
it's
about Amy question mark.
if
Like I don't know, like she's not going anywhere. She hasn't really been doing anything interesting. She's actively irritating at times, and other times she's just super bland. I just don't care what happens to her.
yeah,
I
and
really
I don't
want the
know what's
Doctor
going
to
on with the
focus on
doctor
it.
either. It's about the doctor exploring question mark. It's about the crack in the wall, I
Yeah.
guess.
And again, they're doing a really cool job of building that up. Like where Russell Davies would just say Torchwood, 10 times in a row, over a couple of episodes, and at the end be like, "This is what Torchwood is." Um, this is cooler in that it's like actually you're actually learning something more about the crack every time. Like the fact that the TARDIS explodes, that's cool story wise in terms of filtering out these answers in a way that actually makes us learn more without and maybe implicitly raise questions, but they're not like lost questions like why are there two islands? Ha 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 ha! And then just
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams like jerking off on a piece of paper or whatever. Like these feel more legitimate, but at the same time, who cares?
Yeah.
Because I don't fucking care about Amy, and now my favorite character is dead, and 11 doesn't really have any interesting things to do anymore. So,
So,
yay, Vincent Van Gogh next week.
and I
Yeah,
hate the history ones too. They're
yeah.
never good.
Those are never
They're
good.
never good.
The only one that was almost maybe good was Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, sorry. World War II doesn't count as history because that seems recent to me because I play video games. Because The Empty Child was incredible, obviously.
Yeah.
But God, Pompeii was almost good.
Eh,
Almost.
almost.
Waters of Mars did the whole question of what it meant way better.
Yeah.
But that was the other thing about this most recent two-parter was that it was like so many parts of it were like just bad versions of
Waters of
better.
Mars.
Yeah, or not Waters of Mars necessarily, but like that whole thing was like one of you will kill me, and then old British Felicia Day just kills the guy. It didn't feel like legitimate. It felt like bad, a bad.
British Felicia Day.
She looks like old British Felicia Day. Um, but it was just like it's like midnight, but bad,
Yeah.
and I didn't give a shit at all.
Yeah.
And none of the characters went anywhere. The fucking kid, Ian and I were talking about this again. Like this kid, they gave so many opportunities for this kid to be like super cool and interesting and like do cool things, and nothing fucking happens.
Which
It's
is like
just
the kid that's in Love Actually. What's his face? That's in what is it called? Human Nature.
human nature.
Yeah, he could
Yeah,
have
like,
been that.
he had cool stuff to do.
Yeah, he could have been that kid, but he wasn't.
Yeah, it just the more I'm seeing the less character driven that Stephen Moffat's run on Doctor Who gets, the more I'm seeing the seams of what Doctor Who inherently is, and the less interested I am in sticking with it.
Yeah.
Because like I have no interest in a guy saving the world from a bunch of monsters over and over again, but I did have an interest in it when it was like David Tennant and Christopher Eccleston doing it because it was so character driven. Like now that I don't even have that to fall back on, like I don't care about next week's episode. I don't care about the episode after that. I just want to get to the finale because I know something epic will happen. But even that's just sort of a morbid curiosity. I'm not super excited to see where the 11th Doctor or Amy end up. I'm just
Yeah.
it feels very sad to me to be in this kind of position
No,
where
I
like
know.
maybe my favorite show ever has changed in this way that I'm not super comfortable with. But
Yeah.
maybe I mean we're just suckers for character driven stuff. There are a bunch of people who are saying that like they like this season better than any of the Russell T Davies stuff just because the monsters aren't as goofy and that the plot is being doled out in maybe more interesting
It
ways.
just
But
doesn't make
I,
any. It doesn't matter to me.
yeah,
Well.
done.
Yep.
All right, bye.
But.